top 5 college football players in the Super Bowl. And frankly, I slaved over this list a little bit more than I wanted to. Well, I could have chosen a better word during Black History Month, but I did, right? I was looking at this and I was working at it tirelessly, making myself angry at what I had put down, because we're talking about Kansas City and we're talking about the 49ers, who got some outstanding players. And as much is going to be said about who's not on this list as who is. So let's start at 5 and start about who's on this list. At number 5, I got Ohio State defensive end Chase Young, who plays defensive end for the 49ers. I included Chase Young on this list because, well, I would have awarded Chase Young the Heisman Trophy in 2019. I understand that y'all believe that I'm wrong about that and that Joe Burrow was the only choice. However, when I looked at what Chase Young was doing for that 2019 Ohio State defense, something like 21.5 tackles for loss, 16.5 sacks, unanimous All-American, that man was the Predator walking around seeking who he may destroy. He was so good that they had him playing inside linebacker as well as end. Loved that. And then in 2020, turned around and won Rookie of the Year as a Commander, which is a wild thought because nobody thinks about the Commanders as being any good. But Chase Young makes the list for me. At number 4, an Oklahoma great, maybe the greatest offensive tackle that Oklahoma's ever produced, Trent Williams. And I get here on this. It's not just that Trent Williams is a 3-time All-Pro, right? And maybe the best offensive lineman the University of Oklahoma has ever put out. And Oklahoma's put out a hell of a lot of great offensive linemen, including Creed Humphrey, who's going to be playing center for the Kansas City Chiefs, or Wanya Morris, among others. And I mean, look, the point here is that he's won those awards, all 3 of those first-team All-Pros, at San Francisco, which is on the tail end, or I should say the second half, not the tail end, second half of his career, which say he didn't do this in Washington. I didn't really appreciate that until, you get over to this offense where Kyle Shanahan knows exactly what to do with offensive linemen and how to get his, runners in space, whether it be Deebo Samuel or otherwise. And you get to see Trent Williams at his full birth and breath. And he is magnificent to watch if you like offensive line play. And I do. All right, number 3 on this list, maybe the most attractive man on this list, Christian McCaffrey, Stanford tailback. I love Christian McCaffrey stories because as much as he is a pretty boy, and he is, he's also one of the most durable and toughest dudes walking earth. Like, I see that man get ragdolled like his name is Jaden Daniels, and he continues to score TDs. Like, he is a walking TD. And he is running the ball on a team that used to pride itself on being able to run like 3 running backs back there because, it's a lot to carry. And yet Christian McCaffrey came over in that trade, and he has worked for San Francisco. I think there's a year for which he probably should have won the Heisman at Stanford, but he also went to Stanford. His pedigree is renowned. His mother was Division I athlete, Ed McCaffrey, great wide receiver for the Denver Broncos. Also, Luke McCaffrey at Rice. Keep going down the list here. You can understand how the McCaffreys continue to put out guys, but this dude in particular has been nothing but a dynamo since he entered the league and has been so much fun to watch since I knew about him at Stanford. And then number 2 on the list, I got a tight end here, but it ain't the tight end you're thinking about. It's not, I swear. It's George Kittle. George Kittle is the most complete tight end in football. Full stop. I understand that it is a position that has become much more of a star maker because it's a glorified wide receiver, right? Even if they don't always want to pay that tight end like a wide receiver. But I look at George Kittle play tight end, and I don't think there's anything in the world he can't do. He can block down. He can pull. He can catch passes in, my goodness, with hands all over him. He is a walking safety blanket while also being the guy that's going to clear the way for guys like Christian McCaffrey. And I love his maturation because his maturation reminds me a lot of Brock Bowers, where all of a sudden this dude came out looking yoked. It's like, wow, that's a string bean of a man. That's Bruce Kittle's kid. To holy smokes, that George Kittle? You know what I mean? Like, he's just all yoked up and all man now. And if you talk to other tight ends, but also listen to other tight ends talk about George Kittle, they will say, nah, that dude's different. He's one of the best we got. I believe Travis Kelce even said as much at Super Bowl Media Day, where Travis Kelce also had to say he did not popularize the fade, which I found insulting. He said, that's ridiculous, and I get that. But, like, which one of y'all told Travis Kelce he the reason that we wear fades because I got black barbershop you need to walk into where we can give you to get down. You probably be telling people what number to cut your hair with, don't you? Don't you? I don't never sit in no barber's chair where somebody got to tell me what number it is. I don't know what number. That's your job. It's a black barbershop. And that's where Travis Kelce be getting them fades, let me tell you, all right? Like before Taylor Swift, my man was into milk chocolate, you know what I'm saying? All right? Hey, maybe he had some help finding out what a fade was in the first place. And then number one on the list, peak dad bod, but also the best quarterback in the NFL today, Patrick Mahomes. Okay. Now, Patrick Mahomes, went to Texas Tech, threw for all them yards in that game in 2016 with Baker Mayfield, Texas Tech, whatnot. But I still marvel at who Patrick Mahomes has become. And I was thinking to myself, why does Patrick Mahomes continue to get into these spots, right? A lot of people wanted to see him on the road this year for the first time in a playoff situation because he never had to be. Went down to Baltimore, took on the number one seed, beat the number one seed with the MVP on the team on the road because he built like that. The thing about Patrick Mahomes is not just he's got this elite arm talent, right? Just outstanding. And his accuracy is great and his playmaking ability is otherworldly. I think people forget, kind of like people forget with Lincoln Riley, that dude's memory is photographic. He's got it once, he's got it forever. He remembers what you were in, he knows why you were in it, and he knows what he's going to do to beat you. That is why he could be out there with Travis Kelce and a bunch of dudes that you can't pick out of a lineup getting ready to try to repeat the Super Bowl in a year where they weren't supposed to be competing for the Super Bowl. They get to leave Kadarius Toney on the bench inactive because that dude is so great. Because that dude is so great. All right? Clyde Edwards-Helaire ain't even got to do that much heavy lifting and doesn't need to because they could just throw another tailback in there out of Rutgers. They can do that across the board, okay? I think when we talk about Patrick Mahomes, we're running out of good things to say because he is such a nice guy and because he does look the most like a regular dude, even though that man is a large human being that just happens to be a little soft around the middle. I understand it. He got kids now. It's cool. But also because he just wins. And that's the thing about Brady that was really difficult to get across to people is that man was so good for a very particular reason. He outstudied you. He knew what he was going to do. He knew where his strengths were. He knew where the ball should go at all times and was so good about it that if the play wasn't there, he just throw it in the dirt, right? Patrick Mahomes still wants to try to make a play. But as I continue to look at this list and I see these guys, all but Patrick Mahomes, George Kittle, we would say weren't necessarily amazing in college the way Christian McCaffrey, Chase Young were, Trent Williams for that matter. But there's room for guys that should be on this list that aren't. I mean, I'm thinking about Deebo Samuel, who I went back and forth on, and how Kyle Shanahan made that into a first-team all-pro player. Basically a dude that nobody could decide what position he played, wide receiver or tailback. He is a wide receiver. He just happens to be doing what you might do with a guy like Brock Bowers, which is run the end around because that's one of the best athletes you got on the squad, right? And then you go down the list. George Karlaftis, 5-star, going to Purdue. Became a dude. We mentioned Clyde Edwards-Helaire, who won a national championship. Nick Bosa could have been on this list. Sam Darnold could have been on this list. He ain't been nobody in the NFL, but he was absolutely that dude at USC. Keep going down. John Kinlaw, Eric Armstead. My God. Got Eric Armstead and Fred Warner on the same defense. The NFL is really, really good, guys. And this is just a smattering of the guys that I was just really burying myself trying to put them over the top because, like, for instance, Kadarius Toney doesn't even make this list because he might not even play in the Super Bowl. But ask yourself, where was Kadarius Toney in 2020? Catching everything that Kyle Trask threw his way when it wasn't going to their all-star tight end, Kyle Pitts. I love this stuff. I do, truly. And you can see that I slave over it. So let me know what you think of the list in the comments and whatnot. Otherwise, we will see y'all live next Tuesday. If you like what you've seen, consider subscribing to the #1 college football show on YouTube, the Fox Sports app, or wherever you get your podcast.